For thousands of years, civilizations, separated by oceans, language, and entire continents, have told variations of the same story. They speak of a hidden kingdom beneath Earth, a place untouched by ordinary time, a civilization possessing knowledge that humanity once did understand but then lost. A world reaching through caves, mountains, deserts, and passages concealed beneath ancient temples. In Tibet, they called this Shambhala. Across Central Asia, this was known as Agharta. Some described it as a spiritual kingdom. Others believed it was a physical empire containing underground cities, rivers, farms, and machines capable of crossing enormous distances beneath the continents. According to one of the more extraordinary interpretations of this legend, Agartha is not simply an underground city. It is a surviving remnant of a civilization that existed before recorded history. A civilization that may have watched the surface world collapse more than once. According to the document that I am examining today, which is called Agartha Underworld, there are strange objects, now called flying saucers, that may not have arrived from distant planets. They may have been from beneath our feet. So, there is a book called Agartha, the Subterranean World, originally published under the title Nuclear Age Saviors by Raymond Bernard. This brings together hollow earth theories, Buddhist traditions, stories of Atlantis, polar exploration, underground tunnels, and the appearance of unidentified flying objects after the Second World War. These ideas remain highly speculative, but when assembled together, they form one of the strangest alternative histories ever proposed. And this begins with a question: what if the ancient world did not disappear? What if it simply went underground? They carried their knowledge, machinery, and cultural records into a network of subterranean refuges. There, beneath the surface, their civilization continued. The surface world experienced floods, wars, migrations, and repeated periods of collapse. Libraries were destroyed, cities were abandoned, languages disappeared. New civilizations rose without fully understanding what had existed before them. But underground, according to the theory, the Atlantean survivors were protected from these events. Their knowledge was never interrupted, and their technologies continued to develop. After thousands of years, the difference between the surface civilization and the subterranean civilization became enormous. This explains why Agartha is described both as ancient and impossibly advanced. The inhabitants were not visitors from another planet. They were descendants of an early terrestrial civilization. They remember the world before the catastrophe because their historical records have never been broken. The book even compares the migration into Agartha with the story of Noah. A chosen group is warned of an approaching disaster and are removed from the threat before the flood arrives. In one version, they enter an ark. In another, they enter Earth. Different stories preserve different fragments of the same memory, a civilization dividing before a catastrophe, with one remaining on the surface and another disappearing into protected regions below the surface. So, if such a civilization survived, it would require more than one single underground refuge. It would need transportation, communication, food production, and then connections extending beyond enormous distances. So, this believes that there could have been tunnels that connected, roads beneath the continents. So, stories of underground passages appear throughout ancient world. Temples were built over caves, kings were buried within mountains, priests entered chambers beneath the ground to communicate with gods, ancestors, and hidden sources of knowledge. In South America, legends tell of vast tunnels beneath the Andes. In Egypt, traditions speak of chambers and passages between the Giza Plateau. Across Asia, hidden routes are said to connect monasteries, mountains, and sacred cities. Most individual tunnel stories can be interpreted as folklore, exaggerated reports, or memories of smaller artificial passages. But the Agharta theory combines them into one global system. The book cites the explorer and writer Ferdinand Ossendowski, who described Agartha as an underground empire connected through tunnels beneath both continents and oceans. These were not supposed to be narrow cave systems. They were described as enormous roadways through which vehicles could travel between subterranean cities. According to the document, this network extended all the way into South America, where some of the most important entrances were believed to exist. And one of these legendary routes is called the Roadway of the Incas. This was said to extend all the way from the region of Lima, passing towards Cuzco and the desert regions further south, and branch allegedly beneath Brazil. From there, the tunnels were believed to pass beneath the Atlantic Ocean towards lost territories associated with Atlantis. The book claims that these routes once connected Atlantis with South colonies. If true, the mysterious similarities between distant ancient cultures would not require voyages across the ocean. They could have connected from below. The theory also explains that one of the mysteries surrounding the conquest is when the Spanish arrived. They were searching relentlessly for gold and uncovered enormous quantities. But stories persisted much greater treasures had been removed and hidden before the conquerors could reach them. According to the Agartha account, Inca groups escaped through underground passages, carrying treasures and perhaps entire communities with them. Some tunnels were sealed, others deliberately concealed, and those who disappeared into a system extending far beyond the territory known to the Spanish. The book claims these deep caverns were illuminated by an unknown source of light, allowing crops to grow without exposure to the ordinary sun. Their inhabitants supposedly lived without many diseases that affects the surface population. This image appears repeatedly within the Agartha tradition. Immense subterranean chambers filled with vegetation, artificial illumination, and cities built on by a civilization capable of controlling this environment. But the tunnel theory creates another possibility. Perhaps some beings remembered by ancient cultures as gods did not descend from the heavens. Perhaps they emerged from underground entrances. Many ancient traditions describe mysterious teachers appearing at the beginning of civilization. Those figures introduce new ways of agriculture, astronomy, architecture, law, medicine, and writing. They arrive among populations living in disorder. They reorganize society and then they leave. In Egypt, Osiris is remembered as a civilizing ruler. In Mesoamerica, Quetzalcoatl is associated with knowledge, order, and cultural development. In the Andes, Viracocha appears as a powerful teacher connected with the creation or restoration of civilization. Conventional mythology treats these beings as gods, legendary rulers, or personifications of natural forces. Ancient astronaut theories reinterpret them as visitors from space. But the Agartha theory offers a third possibility. They all came from an older civilization hidden within the earth. From this perspective, a teacher emerging from a cave or a sacred mountain was not symbolically being born from the earth. He may have entered the surface through a subterranean passage. His advanced knowledge would have appeared to be supernatural. His technology would have been looked at as magic. And if he arrived in an aircraft, the people witnessing it would have described the event using the language available to them, such as a shining cloud, a fiery chariot, a luminous disk, a serpent. The document gives special attention to Quetzalcoatl. It portrays him as a peaceful teacher who prompted discipline, cleanliness, restraint, and a less violent social order. When he departed, he was associated with a mysterious object described in fiery or celestial language. The book interprets this not as metaphor, but more of a technological event. Quetzalcoatl returned to hidden civilization from where he once came. The interpretation is impossible to confirm through mythology alone, but there is a pattern central to this theory. Advanced beings appear during pivotal moments in human history. They provide knowledge, they warn against destruction, and then they retreat when humanity becomes violent again. They promise to return, and according to Raymond Bernard, that return began in 1945. The modern flying saucer era is usually dated to the years following the Second World War. Reports of unusual objects increased dramatically. Pilots described metal discs. Military personnel reported machines capable of impossible acceleration. Objects appeared near aircraft, military installation, and restricted airspace. The common explanation within UFO culture was that these objects came from other planets, but Bernard's book rejects this completely. It asks why machines should be automatically considered extraterrestrial. Their appearance within the atmosphere does not prove that they appeared from outer space. Their technology may have developed somewhere inaccessible on Earth. The book argues that flying saucers were surviving Atlantean aircraft preserved inside of Agharta. Some ancient Indian texts describe flying machines known as vimanas, which you can learn about in a previous video. Agartha theory connects these ancient crafts with the objects reported during the 20th century. And that's it for part one. Stay tuned for part two, and if you like this video,